So, first thing first, would you like to sit down?
No, okay.
You sure?
You can see that on there.
So, the topic isn't going to be about adaptive contextual marketing, because I think we've probably done that to death in the last 4 weeks. So, so this I hope will be the last one that I give for a while too, because I think it's about time other people have a chance to share the fun, joy of brown bag sessions. But what I thought we'd do is just have a little talk about managed marketing operations. It's something that we provide to our customers as a service, and actually we've done a little bit of work in terms of pulling some slideware together on this and actually clarifying what it means and what we're delivering. So it's an important part of our value proposition. So I thought we'd just sort of lift the veil on managed marketing operations. So, and what this is all about is recognising actually what we deliver to our customers is both the technical infrastructure and the human infrastructure. We focus a lot on the technical infrastructure obviously here, because that's what we're doing, we're building that. But actually the human infrastructure that we provide to our clients is of equal importance in terms of making sure they actually get the value out of our capabilities in our application. So we're going to talk about MMOPs, which is about our human infrastructure. This session probably won't take that long. But if you've got questions on the way through, ask. Otherwise, we could be over and done with in about 10 minutes, and that wouldn't be particularly fun, would it? You'd have to go and have lunch. So, look, as I'm sure you're aware, we've got 2 roles currently in our managed marketing operations function. We've got the CVDM role and we've got the TMOP role. In the future, we're likely to add other roles into this mix. People like our data scientists, for example, will become part of our managed marketing operations function, although they're more likely to be a centralised group rather than a decentralised group. We've got 2 roles, the CVDM and the TMOPs. The CVDM typically becomes a single point of contact between the client and Emagine for delivery of campaigns through CLMS. That's what their role is there today. Okay, we hire people in the CVDM role, predominantly we hire people who have a CVM background, who are basically like our clients, out of the client's marketing teams, if you like. Alex, Colleen, Abhishek, who's just joined us for Do, Sofian, who starts on Sunday in Mobile, and Azza, who I'm trying to get into South Africa for MTN. These are all people who come from a background of being inside the customer value management team and our clients. So they've been basically running retention and upsell, cross-sell campaigns. The good thing about as we're expanding our capability in this area, it means that we also get a voice about what the client actually wants inside our business, which I think is going to help us a hell of a lot in terms of looking at our roadmap and the opportunities for what we need to do in the future, because they're coming from the perspective of actually being the end user as well as being our people. But they're the single point of contact. They help plan, conceptualise, prepare campaign specifications, their campaign briefs. They manage the campaigns. They don't do the campaign configuration, that's done by the team off, but they're responsible for directing and managing that activity through, and basically making sure that we're delivering on SLAs. And the other important function that they have is to help identify new opportunities for the client, leveraging our practices across other clients. Now, again, something we've been talking about for a long time, actually quite hard to do when you don't have many people in the CVDM function. But as the number of CVDMs has grown, or will grow, then there's an opportunity there for us to really build up a decent practice. As Andrew said to me the other day, when we were in South Africa or somewhere, it might have been Singapore, I can't remember where it was, we're soon going to end up with a really decent CVM department. It's going to be distributed, but potentially we'll end up having one of the biggest CVM departments amongst our clients in terms of the number of people we would have. We hadn't thought about it that way, and it's a very, very strong resource to have. The TMOPs, of course, you know pretty well, because there's a few of them hanging around here as well. They're basically responsible for 2 roles actually. They've got product support operations responsibilities. That's more traditional, support analyst type functions. Troubleshooting when things go wrong, configuration updates, making sure the inputs and the outputs are working, making sure the platform's running for our clients. Because the other big thing that most of them do is they're responsible for campaign design, configuration, testing, operations, and reporting. Now, this model does not exist everywhere. Okay, so we've got a very high, sorry. Oh, question. Yes, Dom.
Master Greg,
Yes, Dom.
I've got a question about CBDM.
Yeah.
They're sort of different to TMOPs, but particularly about CBDM, they don't share information, or they do share information.
And our CVDMs today?
Yes.
No, we've got a very limited amount going on. Look, there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, there's confidentiality between clients.
Yeah.
In some cases, so for example, Alex and Colleen, who are both in our office here in Sydney, can't talk to each other really they certainly can't talk about what each client is doing. They could talk about CBDM generically, but that would be very, very difficult. And the other issue has been that up until recently, our only CBDM we had was Pratush in UAE, and then Colleen came in here for Vodafone, and then Alex has only joined us recently, and that's been it. So it's like it's a fledgling practice, but I think it's got the opportunity to actually grow very quickly in terms of something where we can leverage. Leverage. I mean, lots of them come out of obviously. They also, CBDMs. They're also great to have when they first come out of the client because they've got all the latest practices that are going on inside the client. Our challenge is to make sure that we maintain that going forward too. The longer they're with us, other than it might become like me, which is like an old has-been, where you basically just have to, trade off everyone else's glory. But the roles are very distinct, and it's really and this is not a technical person. I know that when we have gone through many iterations through our history as Emagine about what these people are, they, originally we used to call them service delivery managers because they were technical service delivery managers. That was when our function was basically to deliver the technology alone. Okay, then we changed the title to customer value delivery manager, and in some instances we didn't necessarily change the skill set. But then when we did change the skill set, we expect them to be technical people. They're not. Okay, they're marketing people. Marketing people aren't normally technical people. And so there's a very distinction, there's an important distinction between these roles. I still don't think we've got it right, but we're on the right pathway. That's why the team ops and the senior team ops in particular, they are the people who are basically there to drive the technology requirements, the product support, not the CVDM. The CVDM is there to make sure the customer is getting value out of using our application. That's why they call the customer value delivery manager. It's the whole point, make sure they're making money. The more money our clients make out of our application, the more likely they're going to be to keep spending it with us and want to spend more. So those are the two roles together. Any other questions about those roles? In terms of what our best practice our best practice is, there's a few things that elements that we have to our best practice approach. And actually this slide was pulled together as part of our proposal to Vodacom DRC. And it was just articulating some of the stuff that's in different places, but I think it pulls it together pretty well. So part of it is that we have on-the-ground team, on-the-ground support. And that should actually say on-the-ground support. On-the-ground team for managed marketing operations, that's right, sorry, that's perfectly right. And we've got customer value delivery managers, team ops, and obviously in South Africa's, in Africa's case, we've got a regional general manager, Lana, just remembered her name. Sorry, Lana. And that model, in terms of regional managers, it's likely to exist in the future should we get enough clients. Okay, so as we build our client bases, that was the sort of structure that we looked to be putting in place. The next thing is actually having regular meeting cycles in place. We don't do this at all well in all places, but we do it pretty well in some, and this is the practice we need to get in place. So there's weekly operational sort of campaign delivery meetings, monthly sort of performance review meetings, and then putting in place a quarterly strategy and sort of steering committee meetings type things. That's where I'll get involved with our clients, and that's where we want to go and start presenting to them the roadmap, what's being done in the product, get from the client their requirements, for new opportunities, new business opportunities, and get these regular sessions going, because the engagement with our clients at this, and particularly the CBM team, the marketing team, at this level is what builds up our strategic relationship with the client. So we're not just dealing with the operational day-to-day. We've got this operating really well in at Optus, and we've got it operating. The first 2 levels are working very well in at Vodacom, for example, and Kretian, who is the new Bertus in Vodacom, has asked for the quarterly session. So we represented, yep, I want those. So we've got the first one of those will happen in April. Campaign calendar is another really important part of the process. It's actually having visibility of the campaigns that are coming up so we can manage the prioritisation of resources. Our campaign to market process, we've got a pretty well defined campaign to market process that we try to follow. It's not followed in all places the way I'd like it to be followed, but it's very important that we get this discipline in place. So this is part of becoming a disciplined practice, is making sure that we use our process and we follow it. It sets SLAs, it sets what the steps are, sets the sign-off points with the client, and then the campaign form is a, let's call it a prototype of what I hope one day will be part of our application. But it's the form that actually captures the customer's brief and allows us to present the design. Really important for a couple of reasons. One, obviously it means that before we get onto configuration, that we're clear on actually what it is that we're going to configure. Stops a whole lot of rework, which we've had in the past without those forms in place. The second thing is it's a document of what the client's agreed that we're to put in place. So if there's ever a dispute about it or ever need to go back to refer it, it's there. Sometimes really painful to maintain because there's often lots of iterations through that process, but quite frankly a lot better to do the iterations on paper than it is to try and do the iteration inside the system, and I'm sure that the team ops in the room would say, yep, we agree with that. Do you? Do you agree with that? Yeah, come on. Yeah, thank you. And it's a CVDM's responsibility to make sure that that document's to a high standard. To me, that document in itself represents a demonstration of whether we're a quality organisation or not a quality organisation. So that's why I get hung up about it, including the fonts and the formatting, as anyone who knows me will know. Because presentation is at least 80% of it.
So Corey makes sure that we follow.
Yeah, good on them. Yeah, we're going to. So, and it's up to the team ops to hold the CVDMs to account for making sure it's high quality too. So they shouldn't have to accept shit. So that's, and I'm sure. So that's anyway. That's a plan because that's really important. So it's a really important part because it does represent a capture of what the campaign is. It means that we've also got a resource that we can refer to when we're trying to look for the different campaign ideas. It's actually there documented. And then the final thing is campaign end-to-end testing, which is fundamental to us being successful, which means testing all the different flows, the different rewards and the different communications as part of that process, which the team ops do. In terms of our campaign to market process at a high level, there's 3 phases. There's the campaign brief and design process, there's the campaign configuration process, and then there's the campaign go live processes. So during the brief and design, that's really been led first by the CVDM, and then the team ops take over with the design, but the outcome of it is that the design brief, the campaign form is signed off. Then we go into campaign configuration process, that's where basically the design is implemented. Sometimes a few changes are identified during that process, but you know, the idea is to go and update the documents. QA buddy check, an important part, because configuration errors can occur, and then campaign end-to-end testing. And we need to do that end-to-end testing ourselves before we get our clients to, because nothing pisses a client off more than running tests and finding there's problems that they think we should have found in the first place. And we're being paid reasonable money to do this, so I'd like to think that's the case, that we would do that. So it's okay occasionally, but it does really upset people. And the trouble is, as soon as they find one mistake, they start questioning everything. And so what could have been something in a job that may have only taken an hour becomes a job that can take a whole day. That's why it's so critical to do that. And then the go live process obviously is the campaign schedule and run, the monitoring, the putting in the alerts, the dashboards that we have, and then the campaign reporting. Okay, so that's sort of our high level process. We have SLAs. Actually Lana's done an augmentation on this with new campaigns. I quite like it actually separating between simple campaigns and complex campaigns with a few examples. And she's done this on the basis that the brief has been, there's a walkthrough, the brief is clarified. So she's looking at this for Vodacom, 5 business days for a new campaign, 10, a simple one, complex one, 10. We also use a concept of rate card campaigns, which allows us to, we say a rate card campaign equals 20 steps of responses. We're using that to help identify big campaigns versus small campaigns as well. I mean, we've had campaigns that have got 60 odd steps of responses. Those are big. They take a while to configure, they take a long time to test. So that's, recognised. We've got SLAs around changing running campaigns or existing campaigns, whether they're minor, medium or major, and it all comes down to depending on what level of testing is required through that process. Okay, so I'm sure this will get refined a little bit more, but that's an important part of the proposition. And the final thing I wanted to talk about is the commercial model, because this is evolving for us as well. So we started this game with a commercial model, which is, I'd say, is a resources model. You're basically paying for people, and we have that contract in place. For example, with Vodafone, with Vodacom, we had it with Etisalat UAE. We have got it with Etisalat UAE Mobile. So that's traditionally where we've gone. We're trying to move to a services model. So we're actually paying for the outcomes. The client's paying for the outcomes delivered, not for the people involved. So it's specified in terms of the number of campaigns that can be configured in a month, specified in terms of the SLAs that we deliver on both the campaign delivery and the support SLAs. Much better conversation to be having about that than to be having a conversation about number of people, because the number of people discussion ends up in all sorts of crazy stuff goes on. So that's sort of the evolution. The first one of these we ran was with Do. Okay, so. And we started out with our resources model. Actually, Do came back and said we want a services model, so we refactored it into a services model. Of course, it's still, when we come up with how many campaigns, we're making assumptions about what team size we have for that. But it's a much better way to go. So that is the end. Are there any questions, comments? Okay, so Robert. Yes. Yeah, no, it's on my laptop at the moment.
A lot of insight to me about the process.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Jolly good. Thank you so much for your attention and for participation.
Press the power button.
Yes, Niraj, Alan, Koi and Ravi are all team ops. Well, they have dual hats.
Yes.
Okay, Niraj is also the level 2 support manager,